All right, I'm about to send these links out for us and we'll be all set. Just bear with me one moment. We're actually recording as we speak. And I will be able to edit this portion eventually. Bear with me.
Welcome to Reverb. On pre-loved guitars, refurbished synths, and used
stop, go all the way, go all the way, go all the way, go all the way, go all the way. Go all the way, go all the way, go all the way, go all the way, go all the way. Don't stop, go all the way, 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 go all the way. Let the critics critique, let them read the receipt. When they purchase defeat, don't quit, go all the way, go all the way, don't stop, go all the way, don't stop, go all the way, go all the way. Go all the way. Don't quit, go all the way, don't stop, go all the way, don't stop, go all the way, don't stop, go all the way, go all the way. Let the is defeat. Don't quit, go all the way, don't stop, go all the way, don't stop, go all the way, don't stop, go all the way, go all the way. Go all the way. Don't quit, go all the way, don't stop, 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 go all the way, you can't go all the way too far, go all the way, don't quit, go all the way, don't stop, 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 go all the way, you can't go all the way too far, go all the way, don't quit, go all the way, don't stop, 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 go all the way, you can't go all the way too far, go all the way, don't quit, go all the way, don't stop, go all the way, 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 go all the way,
Bear with me as I align everything. Grand Rising. I appreciate those of us who are able to make it at this present moment. I am finalizing some configurations. I believe seems to be that all is functional at this present moment. Let me get my camera on. Of course, this is my first time. Bear with me as I align everything. Got a little feedback. Let me get that turned off. Okay. First time going live with Zoom. So first time for everything, even with the practice trials, still need to actually get into the flow. And if you see, we have 3 presently watching. If you can hear me clearly, I'm asking if you leave a 1 in a chat. Otherwise, I trust the transmission is coming through clearly. There we go. Let's see if I can get a clean visual on YouTube. Let's go there, take a look. My camera is on. However, I'm still seeing a blank screen currently on the YouTube stream. So we'll see how that turns out. There we go. There we go. Just seems to be a little delay, but I know that will be worked out accordingly. That's to be expected. There we go. Dre, you here with me, brother?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sounds great. We in business, brother. If you would like
Would you like to go
to,
ahead and turn my camera on or what?
absolutely, that'd be great. And I'm going to record this on Zoom as well. And I have it going on my camera too, just so we can have a nice hard copy. Grand Rising, my brother, I appreciate you joining me today. Let me get to this YouTube screen. And man, there's a lot of configurations with this. In fact, I won't be viewing the chat. Well, I may. I just may view the chat. Let's take a look. There we go. So yeah, brother. No, Grand Rising, I appreciate you joining me, of course, and everyone else who's dialed in. And this stream is targeted for everyone who could benefit from it. However, as I was building with you yesterday evening, that our hometown, Holly Springs, Mississippi, like most of us, holds a special place in our heart. And, you know, we see a lot of things of which we will discuss. And yeah, it's just so much. And I trust that we will at least get one ear. That's all. That's always my goal, is to, you know, when I was more egotistical, younger, I wanted to reach the masses, which I still do. But the fact of the matter is, just like today, you know, I'm going to ask you, my brother, what time did you rise today?
I got up at 6.
Okay. I've been up since 3:30. The fact of the matter is, and I'm in another time zone. The fact of the matter is, we all won't wake up at the same time.
Nah.
We just won't do it. And that's okay. You know, that's okay. And the reason I say grand rising is because the word mourn, M-O-U-R-N, mourn. I ask you, when you hear the word mourn, what do you generally think of?
I think of a loss.
Exactly. A loss, a death, you know, a funeral. What is there to mourn? You know, the subconscious has no sense of humor. What is there to mourn about when the sun rises? In fact, good morning, it's a paradox or an oxymoron. Good, how can a morning be good? I mean, I guess it can in a tense, but generally speaking, good morning is not, it doesn't make sense to me. You know, and that's something I never felt comfortable saying, despite that being the general greeting in the South, especially. And when I came across the phrase grand rising and really dialed into that, it just sounds more fitting to greet someone in that manner within the day. Go ahead, my brother.
Nah, because like the cliche, when they're wrong, you do as the Romans. So it just become like a standard practice. But like you said, not everybody wake up at the same time. So because you know we have to reach people where they are, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I must give we're going to get into the topic, and the title of this stream is What's Plaguing Our Communities. But before we really dial in, I will speak about or speak on how this brother and I even met. You know, I'm 37. I did check that. I know I did a video a few days ago and I said I did not know my age, and that's true. I don't keep up with time in that manner at all. So, you know, I'm on social media, not overly active or anything like that. I primarily do it for a few reasons. I won't get into all of those. One of those reasons is to stay connected with my hometown, Holly Springs, Mississippi. And, you know, you see things people post here and there, And this brother, that was quite, he stood out to me because I usually post things of the higher truths. And because one of the reasons that let's just say we're on a fear-based programming, So if it's not the end thing to do, like associate with truth, let me simplify that. The neophyte will much rather, let's say, engage with a video that has to do with nonsense versus the alternative. And this gentleman intrigued me because he would speak in his manner, as we all do, higher truths, and we know that knowledge is a bill. I dialed in with the brother, or he dialed in with me. I don't remember the specifics, but aside from the previous, I say 2 years, I personally, I'm a few years his senior. I didn't know him personally at all. So this is not an endorsement to any ventures that he may be partaking in. If you like to dial in, look at his social media. This is a heart-to-heart build with someone, a gentleman, a man I connected with in that manner. And quite frankly, we could significantly benefit from more of that within our communities. I'm not looking at the YouTube stream, and I won't be, but I can assure you there are not over 10 people in the space right now. One, it could be, there's no excuse because, and I mean, let me clarify that. If I marketed this or promoted this and said one random woman or man would receive $500 if they stayed from beginning to the end on its stream, this thing would have at least 10 people. That would be for certain. And that is a part of our problem, of which we will get into within our communities. We value things that really lack intrinsic value. As I stated on a previous stream, the wealthiest being on the planet does not have an idea what a dollar is. So when this brother and I connected, I believe I dialed in with him, or we were commenting and just showing respect, because you seldom see us engaging us, and I'm speaking geographically here, Southern Bible Belt, slave state region. We seldom see us engage in the higher truths, although I've been seeing an uptick of that. So I commend him for that. I called the brother, or he called me maybe less than a year ago. And we build. I believe he had a question for me. I won't go into that, but before we concluded the call, the brother said, "I love you, man," or "I love you." And I said it in return. I would much rather woman or man tell me they love me than tell me they hate me. Albeit I'm aware that everything has an opposite. I am not here to focus much attention on the opposites. Even with the algorithms that we have, I don't want to say we, because I don't want to lump myself with the operatives of this streaming platform, although I live by the highest maxim, all is self. So within this platform, algorithms are tailored towards nonsense. And the primary way to reverse that trend, which is going to be an upstream task, is for us to share this amongst our people. Now, in saying that I'm asking for us to share this, share it with someone who you feel needs to hear it. I'm not a YouTuber or anything like that. I'm simply merely expressing my heart over a global platform because I have a voice and I choose to use it. That is my weapon. My voice is my weapon. My mind is my weapon. My spirituality is my weapon. Some people choose to have guns or knives. That's fine if that's what you want to do, but what I choose is organic, and that's just how what it is. So I would like to give the space or share the space, I should say, or open the space for Dre to even come in and not only tell us about himself, but just his experiences overall and his engagements with me, because this is organic. This is not scripted. I took a few keynotes that I may be able to speak on. I know we have a hard stop at 8 a.m. Well, about 7:50 a.m. Mountain Time. I generally don't have a time limit. However, I have a commitment at, well, let me rephrase that. I need to check. So it may be 9 a.m. I would check, but we would have a hard stop. I think my commitment, let me take a quick look. Let's see. Yeah, my commitment is actually at 10 Mountain. So yeah, we got some time. We don't have to rush. I'm glad we did this thing at the moment we did. So we're not in a hurry, and there will be a part two. So whatever we may not felt we got to or covered today, we will circumvent on that. And part of this being so organic, my brother, I did not mention that when you speak, I'm going to mute my line just so there's no interference or a changing of cameras. And when you conclude, then I will unmute. We'll go from there.
Okay. But nah, man, like you said, I called you with a question. You know, it gave me some great advice, man. And I can't do nothing but appreciate it. And so, like, truth be told, I did tell him I love him. Like, this is my brother, man. I know this man from my community. So I was like, man, I appreciate the way, you know, I was able to reach out and get some great advice because, like, you know, like, it's not often that you can go to a person for advice. Now that I've been in the realm, like, some people have egos. Let's just be real. Some people have egos. And so, like, this man had no ego at all, you know, and I won't speak on it, but man, this man is respectable in his space at that time. So, like, I went to him with a legitimate question, and he was able to give me some great advice, like I said, and yeah, man. Then, like, so just speaking on how the spring is, like, when you called me back the second time, right? When you called me and you told me the story about you hit my cousin's car. You told me about how you hit my cousin's car. You were scared, man. He told you don't worry about it.
Hey, I don't mean to interject.
Nah.
But when you get a moment, and you're fine as is, but if you would like to tilt and you tilt your camera down some because it's getting a lot of the you're there you go. We can see you much better now. Just you know, definitely elaborate on that. And I'm gonna stay unmuted. It's relatively quiet around me, but no, there you go. You're looking great. There we go. I like this story. It needs to be told. It needs to be told. And no, go ahead. I interjected, but I'm listening to you.
Nah. But you told me, man, you hit Deck's car, man. And he was like, man, he could see you was scared, and like he just told you, go ahead, don't worry about it, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, the truth is unbelievable to say the least. the story is I was 15 and I was 15 and a half, and my cousin, I won't say her name, but I had an older cousin who she was letting me get her car because I was mature. I was working at 15 and I really wanted my license. And during this ordeal, I was doing the driving test. She was still in the driver license spot. I was on Park Street, and it's a very narrow street, very narrow. And I didn't know who lived there, but it was a car parked on the street, and there was an oncoming car coming this way, and I have the driver license representative on the passenger side, and I felt I had the right of way, but that other car that was approaching did not stop. So I was able to squeeze in, between them both, not having much experience at all, and I nicked the car. So of course, if it was me by myself, I probably would have kept going, just keeping it what it is.
Yeah.
But of course, we had to stop, and we knocked on the door. My heart was racing. I was like, man, not only is my cousin going to be upset at me, but whoever this is, they're going to look to get some money. The brother came out, and he knew me since childhood. He was great friends with an uncle by marriage. And I never will forget he had, when I say zero, I mean zero animosity towards the situation. And this is something that I actually dialed in with him. I think I went to him face to face because he's an entrepreneur in the area decades later, and he remembered the scenario, and I appreciated him for the way he handled it. And that's what I mean, or that's a prime example of energy is never created or destroyed, is only transferred. And I needed that because when I have came into situations where I felt like things were not in my favor, I can always tap into the memory and think about my cousin. She wasn't upset. I asked her not to tell anyone. I know you mentioned ego. I used to be far more egotistical than I am now, but she held that. She kept that secret amongst us and her brother, my other first cousin, and she didn't tell anybody, and I'm able to speak about it now. And your cousin, Dex, what's the relation, cousin, uncle?
That's my cousin.
Your cousin, Dex,
Yeah.
I get it now. For somebody to hit my car, being where I am right now, I would have to get some type of retribution for that. This brother came out of his own pocket, and he did more for me then than he was aware at the moment or even now. So I know the brother will hear this transmission, and he's somebody that I respect on that alone, as well as my cousin. Now, I know I can get long-winded, but I'm about to you keep on. I won't interject again. You keep on doing you. And when you would like to get into the topic, go right ahead and we'll build from that.
Nah, man, Dave's definitely he a man that understands community, right? So that's what we should do for one another. Not saying that anybody that hits your car, you should, like you said, of course you're gonna want to you got to make your insurance claim. They got to pay for that, But him being who he was in the relation he had prior to, to meeting you, that, like you said, that energy transfer, they had a good bond. So when he saw that it was you, it was like, oh man, he couldn't even get mad. So that's what community is about, And he understands it. So Dex definitely a commendable guy, man. And but just speaking on our hometown, man, it's a lot that go on. It's a lot that go on, man. But it's such a small town. We just gotta have some more unity like that, you know?
Why don't you feel that in a town of roughly 7,000 ish, the last I dialed into that metric, have as much the unity that you're speaking of? Why is that the case by your assessment?
It's egos, man. It's egos. And honestly, it's egos. That's it. Everybody got an ego.
I agree. We all have egos, and I know you mentioned when you dialed in with me in relation to a question that I did not have an ego. And that's something that when I was younger, I did not realize how egotistical I was. I mean, I was even called arrogant. And I thought to myself, you do know I live in Section 8 housing, right? You do know I wear the same clothes virtually every day. But I said that internally. But
Yeah,
if my aura emitted that essence, then I knew then that, hey, I'm receiving confirmation of the type of being that I am. And as I ascended into spirituality a few years ago, year and a half, 2 years ago, I presented that it was presented to me that I still was quite egotistical, but I didn't realize it. And that's, ego is something that we cannot, well, we likely won't suppress. Like as long as we're breathing, that is a sign of ego. As I mentioned in the previous bill, if we don't feel, I said I don't recommend this, but if you don't feel you're egotistical by the minute amount, then stop breathing. Just stop right now. Ego will ensure that you will breathe. I promise you that. So it's a matter of balance. And in our region, not just our region, I've been around the country since I was 19. I've been traveling the country. I'm done flying for the time being because, I get into that a little later, maybe. But there is a polarization of ego. Pride and ego, master teacher shared with me, causes blind eyes. And I will admit that that is one, in agreeing that that's one major flaw, an amplification of being egotistical, So, no, I agree with you. What else are you seeing out there? And even if you would like to elaborate on that, and hey, go, in as much as you need to, because this is a joint bill. We just to hear from you. I mean, tell us about, if you don't mind, just your upbringing, and without getting too personal or anything like that, or as personal as you would like to get. I mean, just your age, when did you graduate? Because I would like to learn about you more. I don't know anything about you aside from our interactions on this social media platform, which
right.
I'm not going to give them more publicity than I already have. Because quite frankly, that's not something I'm invested in, nor have I ever been invested in it exclusively. So just from the mainstream platform that we met, from what you even knew, I mean, elaborate more on yourself. And like I mentioned, we have more time than I felt. So, hey, I would like to hear you.
Nah, for sure. But nah, I came up in Holly Springs and I left around like ninth grade. But just being there during that time, man, like it was a lot of love. Like I don't know what changed. Like I mean, what does change? Like the times change. Like people have came and gone, so the town changed. But just coming up, man, like Holly Springs, like it was a lot of unison. And you know, our town was like kind of thriving a little bit. Like now the town just so dry. Like people used to love to come to Holly Springs. Like it's crazy how it was just like a switch, you know. But it's just like, you know, I understand conditions too. You know what I mean? I understand conditions. So like when the town was thriving, like, you know, everybody was able to be, you know, not saying that everybody was just A1 and good, like, you know, just as far as like money goes, but people used to look out for each other like more. But now it's like you almost can't because the way we've evolved as a people, you look out for somebody, they almost feel like they getting over on you. Like, you know the word, like they finessing now. You know what I mean? They finessing now. So now it's no more. It's hard to have a good heart in public. It's hard to have a good heart in public, man. Like your heart will take you down through there. Like if you're a good person, like it'll take you down through there.
I got to interject on that. And like I said, this is a dialogue, not a monologue. So you need to interject on something I'm saying. Hey, it's there for you.
Definitely.
But in mentioning the heart, that's something that I've internally battled because I'm a naturally open-hearted, big-hearted man. And I have even currently, through multiple instances, and it's usually those who are closest to you. Usually that's the case. And I was like, if I close my heart, having a closed heart is just as negative as having a heavy heart. And we entered this realm, this matrix for experiences. You know, our higher self, our soul can't experience anything physically unless it's attached with the body or sync with the body so that we can have those experiences. So now I'm with you, and it's a fine line between being naturally open-hearted, keeping our heart light, and balancing it with those who don't walk this existence with that same integrity.
For sure. And like it's just like, man, like you gotta spend money with your people because when you think about it, ultimately, who you give your money to is who you give your power to, right? So I'm gonna just make this example. I love eating at Miss Annie restaurant when I go to town. I love eating up there. So like quite naturally, when I'm out of town, I tip, right? I'm just using this for a broad example. I tip, right? So I tip at Fleming's, I tip at all these nice steakhouses that I've eaten at across America or any other, locally, even Roost Creek, all these restaurants I'm tipping. We tip, right? So when I'm there, I make sure I tip just the same. So now when I'm tipping it, and I'm then there tipping more than my food actually costs. So that's a prime example of, for me, it's not about like the plate was whatever. I don't even remember like what I don't want to say a price because I don't want to say I'm giving a discount, but whatever her price was for my food, that's not the thing. Like, but no, I appreciate her being a staple in the community, and I want to keep on seeing her there. Like, so that's why I did what I did because I value her in our community, and I don't think it's enough of it to go around.
I'm with you. And so right now you feel on the top of your list, not that we're keeping just order like that, but just some things that are on your list are ego, a big, well, let's say amplified ego, and amplified ego, and how would you
the good taking it,
the heart, yeah.
the new way, like finessing. Finessing
But
is the new
what
way.
changed
So,
that though? Like what changed that? Like how do we get from, because I agree with you, like your cousin Dex, great example. Great example. That's one of many examples, because a lot of people did kind-hearted things to me young. And when we speak about the distorted things, because negative, let me clear this. So negative is not necessarily bad or evil. Negative is not evil. If negative was evil, then our batteries and our remotes would be some of the most evil things on the planet. I mean, negative and positive, they need each other. They're different polarities. So now when we speak about distorted things, that's another topic right there. So my question is, what do you feel, just in this short generation, contributed, maybe a tough question, what do you feel contributed to the amount of distortion that are in our communities collectively in such short time? Also, where did you move from, or where did you move to from Holly Springs in the 9th grade?
Gotcha. So when I left Holly Springs, I moved to Horn Lake, right? I was going to Horn Lake High School, but my dad lived in Horn Lake, so I was quite naturally, my mom, she didn't want me in the Memphis city schools because we had moved to Memphis. We had moved right in East Memphis, like off of Kirby Parkway. And so I would have been going to Kirby, and she was like, she didn't like the schools, whatever. That's a parent for you. So, but nah, she made a good choice, and she made me go to Horn Lake or whatever. So I was back and forth, because like on the weekends, like I would go back to her house or whatever. But I would spend a lot of time with my dad over here going to Horn Lake. But the major difference was like the diversification of the school. So it opened my eyes to a lot of things like real quick. You know what I mean? So, but think about it, like you want to go to a school full of people that look like you and teach. You know what I mean? I had to value that. Like, I had Black teachers, like, you know what I mean? But it ain't even really bigger than that. Is like when I went to Horn Lake, it just opened my eyes to a whole new, to a whole new way of things like that was going on in like public schools. Like I had like crazy classes, like, you know what I mean? Like, and you just picking them. I'm like, we just get out scared. Y'all just tell us where to go, like, you know what I mean? But so it was just like a lot of differences like that. And but nah, like I always dial back in and like just being in those different places. So from Horn Lake to Memphis to Holly Springs, just during my youth, I saw a lot. You know what I mean? I'm saying how generally like 3 different places are moving, you know what I mean? So Holly Springs, it was like at the time we was all sticking together, because that's who we were. We had a lot of unity in town. Like ain't no way, like you said, like this is how energy transfer. Everybody know everybody. Man, that's Chris son from the barbershop. We ain't finna let him be on the side of the road with no flat. We not finna charge him either. It was a lot of that going on. If you call these people now, like, you know what I mean? Like, not devaluing anyone's service, because there's businessmen that conduct in their space. So I'm not devaluing their service, because when I pay those people, I want to make sure I pay for the service, because that's who I give my power to. You know what I mean? Who you spend your money with is who you give your power to. If I respect you enough, like I want to see you in their position anyways.
Now, I said this about your dad, as I mentioned about your cousin. I didn't know your daddy was your daddy until I seen a picture online. And when I was a little boy, my same uncle who was friends with your cousin Dex introduced me on a more personal level to, at the time I didn't know, was your dad. And I know I built with you on this the other day, yesterday, or one of these days, that man, like his energy is with me. He was always cool and he's just naturally cool. Kind of, y'all got the same little approach with that. But no, he made some smoked sausage. Now I don't really eat smoked sausages like that now, but the way he cut them up and barbecued them, man, and he fed me like I was his own child. So man, send in love to your pops, man. Much love to him. A definite staple within the community. And if I may, I would like to mention some things that I feel contributed to those problems that you mentioned, because Holly Springs, it's just not Holly Springs, but over the town, I mean, over the country per se.
Oh yeah.
Has, like I said, I've been at quite a few places. We were more loving and things of that nature, but I feel that, well, I kind of know, I don't say kind of know, I do know, social engineering, because unlike when our parents are still a little younger, mine are a little bit older than yours, but not by much. But let's say our grandparents, because I know we spent quite amount of time around them. All they had was each other for the most part. All they had was each other. They couldn't get on Zoom and talk to somebody in another state. They couldn't get on the PlayStation and speak to people in Europe playing Call of Duty or Apex Legends or 2K. They couldn't FaceTime relatives in different parts. They could not even research things. In fact, most of our seniors, as prevalent today, had very low literacy rates. And when we factor that into the equation, it's going to be more word of mouth or believing what's taught to you by your parents.
Let me interject
also,
right there, Willie. So when you think about that, all right, so let's, like you said, they had a low literate rate, but on the scale of the public school system, right? Or being, but generally when you think about them, bro, they were way more independent.
Way more independent.
Way more independent and way more efficient.
And we're getting to where we're building. We're building right now. Knowledge is a build.
Mm-hmm.
They were far more independent because we have to look at it. Like me, for example, I am only 4 generations removed from enslavement. 4. We see the black and white pictures and broadcast on the device that tells a vision, the television, in an attempt to make it seem ancient, when the fact of the matter is my mom, who was born in 65, although she would not have been legally able because she was a child, a toddler, someone who was her brothers and or sisters could not walk into a bank and get a loan. Now, I'm not implying that we need banks or central banks. I'm not implying that. This is not a financial conversation. I'm not endorsing that at all. However, to just know that my mom, her siblings, parents, their parents couldn't even do simple things like that, then yeah, it did. We're building. It did allow us to depend on each other more. So I do see that. And with that dependency, they had children, which were us. And that's where we began to get into modern technology per se. And that more disconnected us, being rather than playing outside like we did growing up in the meadows or wherever the case may be, playing basketball, football, basketball, whatever the case may be. We became more detached from our peers socially, as far as actual being in the same space, and we became more independent because we don't have to generally grow our own food now, or things are more spaced than what they used to be. So one neighbor may work here north, 30 minutes north, the other may have an occupation 30 minutes south, etc. So things progressively have begun to divide us. And so that's my stance just on that. And another factor that I feel was a divisor, and I'm just gonna share with you what I wrote down, because this is the only thing I wrote down. Psychological trauma, family abuse, generational ignorance, hypocrisy, distortion, closed-mindedness, and belief systems. And that all ties, I could really view those, or we could really view those as subsets to the primary factor, which in my assessment, just from studying my surroundings, my projection, the primary source is dogmatism.
But like you said, it's social engineering too. Like that's a broad term. So like when you think about social engineering, let's talk about what contributes to the social engineering. So I'm not one to blame rap music, but when you think about it, you are what you consume, right? Let's be real. You are what you consume. And I'm gonna point it out to you, and I'm gonna show you how. So when you think about some like me, I generally consume rap music, right? So I dress a certain type of way. Somebody might say it's a stereotype, but what about the black kid that listens to a lot of country music? How I can identify him in the public space. He generally gonna have on the jeans, the button down shirt, the buckle, and the hat, and the boots. I'm rocking, what I'm rocking. So it's not that we're being prejudiced, but I can identify, I can identify somebody that listens to Garth Brooks, like, not on a regular basis. Because I listen to a variety of music myself. But that's what allows me to keep my perspective open. You get what I'm saying? Because like through music, the way people are expressing themselves a lot of the time through music. Let's just be real. We gotta be open about this. And I had this conversation before too. Like in school, we used to study the poems by Edgar Allan Poe or Shakespeare and all these guys. Like, and these guys were drug addicts themselves or drunks themselves. I could tell that then by reading the poems. But what allowed me to see that is like being from where I'm from. And then that's why I said going to Horn Lake, it allowed me to see a lot of things like from a new perspective, but also having my perspective, I was able to adapt quicker. Because a lot of times we be in a space, we be forced to adapt. That's why I feel like anybody that's from where we're from can go anywhere and do anything because we've had to adapt a lot quick. And then it was just always something about we were just always on our toes. So like when you from where we from, when you go out into these other places, like yeah, like it may be a different, but you're gonna pick up very quick. Like you said, I've been in a lot of places, bro. Like I used to. So prior to me leaving Horn Lake and graduating and going to college, I'm gonna skip past college if I'm gonna come back to that. But after I left college, I was doing like construction. I was doing like restoration construction. My cousin introduced me to it. Now, mind you, I just went to college and I spent what like $60,000 on a degree, but I'm out here doing construction. But like I said, like so no, I was doing that. But like we would go a lot of places, like doing this work. So when I was in like different parts of the world, like Louisiana or Philly or you know what I mean, like these places like all have Black people, even though we're in different parts of the world, bro. It's the same thing going on everywhere. Everywhere is the same, bro. Ain't nothing changed but like the lingo, the language. That's the only thing that changed. The same thing going on everywhere. It might be going on a little faster or a little slower. That's it. That's it. So just on our scale, like it happened a little slower, but the way it's coming around, like the way social engineering is impacting things, like you said, we got music that we're consuming that's just so violent these days, like, and we're consuming it at such a high rate that we're seeing crime like take off in bigger cities at such a higher rate, and it's trickling down even to our city. Like we've been having a lot of murders. We've been having a lot of murders, man, and not just to speak on those individually, but our town you never really heard about that so much. Yeah, some people get shot here and there, but it might be one person like a year or something, or every other year or something. Man, you hear about murders like crazy now. And then just being in Memphis, like, this they got their fair share of violence too. But that's going on in Chicago. That's going on in East St. Louis. All these places got the same thing going on. But why? What are we consuming? What are we consuming? Interject on that, man. Let's talk about it. Unmute your mic.
For sure. Yeah, I was actually while you were speaking, man, great assessment. I wanted to dial in deeper on that for certain. Great assessment. And the social engineering, that's something, that's a term that we state. However, it did not begin in what we would consider, and I'm speaking generally here, modern times. Social engineering is a millennial concept, a millennial implementation, I should say. And bear with me, I am looking to get an image. And again, this is my first time using this deal, so I'm navigating everything accordingly. I wish let me see, because I think about, let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. Basic. There we go. There we go. We speak about social engineering, and you mentioned expression and rap. And when you meant, I'm glad you brought that up, because when we were growing up, rap was far more real than what it is today. We actually use that artistic expression to transmit the organic energy, emotions that we experienced from childhood to where we presently were at that time. And when the rap scene was underground or not mainstream as it is today, you know, like we heard about the struggle, but we also received, like, how do you come out of that? You know, we wrote and rapped about what we actually went through, and it wasn't always pretty. Whereas now, that is a part of the social engineering, because these young life forms, notice I call them life forms rather than women or men, because a lot of them, they definitely don't know who they are. Like, that is a fact. They don't know who they are, and they may not even be who we think they are, using simple analogies right now. But you cannot get on a mainstream label if you're not presenting junk to your demographic. And we need to ask ourselves, or we don't need to do anything, but we get an opportunity to ask ourselves, who's co-signing on that? Like, who owns the labels? Any moment I see an issue, I'm always going to begin at the top. And I'm looking at a top-down situation, which brings me to the belief systems. Again, all these can be lumped together. So when we look at this image, many of us, especially in the Bible Belt, the first thing we see, we say it's a cross. We would say that image is a cross. Well, this image is actually a sigil, S-I-G-I-L, in that it is perceived, social engineering, proving that it is millennial, it is perceived to be a cross per se, but is really a sword. Now take a look at that picture. And if, let's say, if Thor, using an example, were to come down and pick that object that's out of the ground, we could see the sword symbolism. And what are our people about to do today, especially in the South? They are about to go worship or go to a war ship. What are they going to wear when they go to the war ship? They are going to wear their war robe. Speaking of ships, there's no such thing as coincidence. Our first names tell us who we are. Our last names tell us who we were. So in moving forward to my assessment, we know that our parents, grandparents, again, 4 generations removed from enslavement, it was, well, let me preface this by making this statement. Legal and lawful are 2 separate entities. Legal and lawful are 2 separate entities. It was illegal for my parents and grandparents to read a few decades ago. Because if we were to read, then we would be in the position we are now, or what we were before the legalities prohibited us from reading, we were far more knowledgeable. We've been inculcated, which has led to a progressive decline within the previous few generations. Because you mentioned the murders. If we're biologically, genotypically programmed generationally, generation after generation, that sigil that's in our head, you think of sword, you think violence. And we act that out, especially if we are worshiping with external entities that we have no knowledge of. I say no knowledge because if you were to ask a Bible Belt religionist, who do they serve? They would say God. Generally, again, a religionist. When we say we serve someone, they even say, hey, I'm a servant. I serve my master. We are immediately putting ourselves in a enslaved state of mind with our relatives who are about to journey to Sunday school right now, and then service 1, service 2, service 3. Kind of, gosh, got sidetracked mentally where I was going. But yeah, they're it's programming. It's programming. Like, we don't know. We read, the Bible is the only book that you read for 60 years and still don't read a full chapter of it. Because we go to the same pages in church,
read the whole
same
Bible.
scriptures, the same verses. But if I were to inquiry the religionist because I'm always going to meet people where they are. And if we knew the full truth, remember, I said hypocrisy is what I know to be one of the keen issues in our community. And I'm speaking globally. What we know as so-called Africa, Europe, South America, we don't know who we are. If we turn to, in fact, I'm going to go there. John 34, 36. And again, in meeting us where we are, I'm going to read it verbatim. And feel free to chime in while I look up that verse. I didn't have it. So, hold on. Here we go. Got it quicker. The beauty of these apps. Let me see. I am almost there. I could bring it up on the screen, but I am going to stick with this. Here we go. John 10, 32 to 34. If I actually, John, I'm going to read John 32 through 36. I'm about to read so right now. Jesus answered them, many good works have I shewed you from my Father. For which of those works do ye stone me? Paraphrasing. I've done many works for you. I've done many works for my Father, many good works. So why are you going to stone me? The Jews answered him, saying, for a good work we stone thee not. We don't stone you because you did good, but for blasphemy. And because that thou, being a man, makest thyself God. So we're stoning you for blasphemy because you're a man, but you're saying that you're God. Jesus answered them, is it not written in your law? I said, ye are gods, question mark. If he called them gods, unto whom the word of God came, and the scripture cannot be broken, say ye of him whom the Father hath sanctified and sent into the world that I'm blasphemous because I said I'm the Son of God? If I do not the works of my Father, believe me not. But if I do, though ye believe me, but if I do, though ye believe not me, believe the works, that ye may know and believe that the Father is in me and I in him. Hypocrisy. If we simply, now, if you're a Christian, you should know your Bible. Imagine if I was a doctor, which I'm not advocating doctors, I'm with holistic health. I'm using an example here. Imagine if I was, I'm not against doctors, because if I were to, it all depends. If I were to have, a broken leg and I legitimately needed an operation, I would likely probably do that, but I would think on it first. But imagine going to a doctor who's never read a book, never read his medical manual. How can that she or he say that they are a legitimate doctor? I mean, would we feel comfortable with that doctor operating on us? So how can you be a Christian or a religionist, using Christian because that is the predominant belief system in our area, and you never even read the Bible in its totality, in its entirety? You haven't done it. Also, with me reading that verse, now, this is the James Charles Stewart version, not the Willie Glover version, not the John Doe version. I take it for what it is. Now, I can paraphrase, it still means the same thing. I'm not changing the meaning or interpretation of that. How can, if your brother, Jesus, per se, sticking to the narrative here, said ye are gods, and is written, and the law cannot be broken, then why don't the Christian call themselves God, walk like they're a God, and even live in that light? Because the most, I can assure you, I mean, you can even look at the rappers. They all have that sigil on their, not all, but a good number of them are now getting their stamp on their forehead of that sigil, that sword that yells death. Like, that is a death cult. They glorify death. They worship death. You say you worship life, eternal life, but ultimately the cross represents death. Anything.
But see, this is my thing with that too. This is my
is
thing
dead,
with that.
per se. Anything curly is alive. The cross represents the phallus. Phallus and phallus. I'm not into phallus worshiping. I would never get on my knees for a man, for any reason. So when we speak about the issues that are plaguing the community, I gave a lot of subsets. Us not knowing who we are, number one, plays a vital role, because for the previous generations, we just went on what we were told. But now that we have so much information, you mentioned this yesterday, this is the information age. And I know it's the age of knowing, the age of Aquarius, and we just came from the age of Pisces. So the world did end in relation to the cosmos. It's a new age. So that particular world ended. It's something new. The ending is only the beginning. When we come into so much information, our generation, because that's where we are now. We spoke about the greatness of now there were still some things going on, because under the guise of religion, I hear this often, came a lot of distortion, which is essentially, I'm specifically speaking of distortion towards the womb and children. Because the Bible teaches, well, the James Charles Stewart versions,
I don't know
because
what
there's
version it is.
many Bibles out there.
I don't know.
So how can you, how ignorant or how naive, not ignorant, how naive is it, would it be for me to say of the 4,200 belief systems, mine is definitively correct? How naive, how egotistical would that be? So in that standpoint alone, closed-mindedness, you see how we're lumping these together. Closed-mindedness prevents us from not only even thinking outside the box, but from even reading what we say we believe in. College, 60 grand on college. That's a part of that belief system as well. Because our generation, what if you don't mind me asking, I was born in 85. How about yourself?
I was born in 92.
You don't mute, my brother.
Can you hear me?
I think we're having some. Are you able to hear me clear? Because I see that you
I'm
unmuted.
talking.
But...
No, I'm not muted.
Okay. I'm unable to. Are you hearing me clear?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. We'll get that. Just look to interject at any moment. I will look at some settings, but I'm unsure why I'm unable to hear you right now. Let's take a look. Yeah, because on my end it's showing it's just fine, but we'll continue on. I know that because our generation is coming into the knowledge, the information. I'll say we can say the knowledge, the information in comparison to our parents, grandparents, great-grands, which are not that far away, our ancestors. Their will calls for a shift, especially when it's cosmically aligned, as above, so below. So I feel, in conclusion, as I see our brother looking to come back on, I feel, I legitimately discern, I should say, that there's an overload right now, in a sense. Because imagine being married for 40 years. Let me allow my brother back in, and we will do a mic check. I see you're in right now, muted. If you can unmute, check that mic. I read your lips to say, can you hear me? But I'm unsure what's going on with this audio. So yeah, definitely wanted to get your insight for sure. And that's the thing about technology. I mean, it can be that way. That's why you can't solely depend on it. You know, I can depend on the sun rising. I can depend on that. I can depend on the moon being up. I can depend on water being around. But I can't put my full dependence on Zoom or a laptop or anything like that. So, I wish I could diagnose it for you real quickly, but yeah, we'll continue on. And I would say continue on with trying for sure. Even if you call me on my phone, you know, we can hear your voice that way. But for right now, definitely keep trying. So where was I? Oh yeah. So with the information that we're receiving now, is everybody reading it? No, but think about a magnet. Think about a magnet, or think about your hair. So if I was in Holly Springs right now, let's say I got a haircut yesterday, and you could if I was in Colorado, which I am now, and if I was sick, let's say 2 months from now, you could take that strand of hair, go to a lab, and it will give you my current state. Magnetism. If I was over my mom's home and had a magnet on the refrigerator, and I slowly pulled that magnet, it's still, you're going to feel that strength. Now, if I, again, came to Colorado with it, it's still going to be linked to that refrigerator. It's just the magnetism is not as strong as it would be if it was closer to that source. The energy, which brings me to my point. The energy that I feel will be transmuted to those as yourself. We mentioned your cousin, we mentioned your dad, and you are a refined version of them. That's what our children are. We're a refined version of our parents. I get that same energy from you that I got from them, and we're more connected, we're more together than we are divided. So with the knowledge build that we're receiving, the ones who are actually reading, just because we can't see something doesn't mean it's not there. And I just feel these sisters and brothers are feeling that vibration, and they're acting on it with the scrambleness of the dogmatism, the awakening of knowledge. We get chaos. You know, we have chaos right now. Well, I would label it as chaos in a sense. And, you know, that's what we see, but it's all on that belief system. I see your brother calling me. Let me get that. And I got you. And I'm going to put you to the mic once you look to interject, and we'll still hear you well. So, well, let me turn the speaker off so I won't hear my reverb. And that's where we are. And I trust that's clear. So from our parents, again, our parents could not go to Google, and they're not old at all. And I won't even say that. But we can, and our children can. So there's a divide, in a sense, from our generation to the generation above us, because we can't even have the conversation unless it's a medium like this. Like, some people would be even afraid to come in to say they're listening to this. They think it's the devil per se, without even knowing that the first, let's just say, you know, both the devil, as you know, so-called him to be, both the devil and Jesus are God's son, are God's creations. Again, the God that you know to believe, the James Charles Stewart version God, because there's more than one God per se. For example, today is the day of the sun, and I mentioned this in the previous bill. Today is the day of the sun, sun day. Tomorrow is the day of the moon, moon day, or Monday. But if we look at yesterday, who day was it then? Saturn's day. If we do a simple search and look up the god Saturn, then that's God. Satan, Saturn, one and the same. That's a god. Thor's day. Thor is a god. So on the back of the paper note, it says, "In God we trust." We ask a religionist, what's their God's name? And we're likely going to hear them say, in the South especially, his name is God. He has many names. Cool, give me one. Because my name is Daddy. My name is brother. Not name, but my title. Daddy, brother, cousin, friend. But what are one of my names? You know, what is your God name? Can I get his name? And if you give me his name, then I will be able to let you know which culture created him. And I leave it open for anything you like to just expound on that. Oh, there you go.
A little bit, like when we talking about people at church, like, well, because like again, I said we gotta repick where they are. So I can see where it's moving.
Hey, my brother, would you mind? Hold on, let me mute my Zoom because I am getting a little. Comments if you can hear me, because I just don't want to be on this deal muted. So yeah, if you could just exit out the Zoom and see if you can hear me on YouTube. And I'm actually going to. Oh, I've been muted. Gosh, I've muted myself. That's on me. Okay, there we go. I appreciate that, family. I was muted on Zoom for the, I would say, gosh, because I was listening to you. I've been muted for at least probably 5 minutes, but I do have a hard copy of this. I will leave this up, and we will for sure upload everything you stated. I trust that the camera was able to pick that up. And hey, this is my first live, so you know, go ahead, my brother. Go ahead. And you can mute that YouTube now. Yep. Yeah, I was on mute. I diagnosed it. Okay, you were really going in, and this needs to be heard. This needs to be heard. So if you could, and I just want to say this. Well, I tell you what, I will go ahead and conclude this, and I'm going to expound on what you're saying, and we will do a part two, and continue on from what we were building on. So I'm going to conclude this, and we'll be in touch, my brother. All right. So what our brother Dre was stating was that religion is needed because it gives people hope. It gives them something to strive for. And I didn't have an opportunity. I was allowing him to elaborate, but I completely agree. Because we see what we're doing with religion. Imagine what it would be if we did not have it. And I liken it to a tree. If we go plant a tree in the yard right now, a week later, we'll be able to use our bare hands and pull the tree up. Whereas if that tree was there for a year, 2 years, let alone 30, 40, 50, it's going to be immovable by hand. It will be immovable. Our parents, grandparents. I am personally not looking to change anyone's mind. I just simply would like for us to critically think. And if we should ask ourselves, have you ever been accused of critically thinking? Like, that would be a great accusation. Have you ever been accused of critically thinking? And if no, I challenge you to be accused of that. The bill was great, was going solid, but I will look to conclude here just out of respect for what we've done. And I would like this to be flawless, point to point. There will be a part two. I am extremely grateful for everyone who was able to join in and listen to us. It's always great hearing alternative perspectives, and we're able to see things because we all have different lenses. We all have different lenses. It's a paradox. They're the same, but they're different. We see through different projections. And this was, again, the first live that we did with someone. I'm unsure how many more I would do over the long call of this, but we're just going to keep building. No expectations. Whoever's supposed to hear it will hear it. So we give thanks. I really appreciate it. And we're sending love. Thank you so much.